Welcome everyone to the question and answer session with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. Many questions were submitted and we only have time for Rinpoche to answer 8 questions. So the other questions will be answered by Rinpoche at a future date. We usually do a question and answer on a Saturday and we live stream it and we'll send out an email when that's happening so you all can tune in and eventually your question will get answered.
Om Aho. Good way, you know. Rashidele, Shokredele. Joya.
So I start with the first question. How does one clear all karma in this life? So I do it in Tibetan, not in Tibetan, right? You said.
That's right. Rinpoche has all the questions written in Tibetan.
Okay. That's all, Rinpoche.
Oh. Tambo dire ve.
Re ti le kola ti re tambo ti.
Le so bare. Oh. Se pe ya bole. Le so ba han kono tini. Le sa me sore. Lu nga yi sem myo tini. Yi je le te tambo yi ge le sa ngre. Yi ge le sa te la kai ge sa ge shit de bare. Shit de bare se me ne lo ma thong na. Da ji ni thong ko yo le. Ti da ji ni thong te la ta la cha yin la cha dang le sa le thong ma tini sa ge cha dang ni da ji ni thong ni u ta na tini le ga che ge le. Te ge le sa ngre. Le sa na sem de ta. 차당 이나 띠니들이 름지들이 뉴모가 톡 싸고 뉴모가 톡 레게 세미 뉴모가 되는더니 들이로가 자와쟁을 누가 요포도 그래 또 세미 세미들은 사이야리티 다 세미 장토고 그래 다다지 포모스만 도는 좀 말이 레버티르기 먹게 와도 오 들이 다다 드랍지만 망발람 못서 뒤섬에서 봐. 뒤섬에서 봐. 게다거나 뒤섬에서 봐. 레사가 뒤섬에서 봐담지 장고고삼이 장고리. 생광들이 이요 말이 레제 생고 돌아요리. 까빠르싹 받다봐야 고조적인 조발게 송 철수 레사데 되는 까빠 망보로 삼제를 사요나 고조적으로 나지 돌아도요. 야지 삼대 15째 끼어나 야지 상만 전도에 또 생리 생기더니 샤과지로 그러더니 내 장토고 내게 생부터는 요래 이니 요 말이 되게 장토고 요래
So, and so that's really a very good thing to understand. We need to understand how, first of all, how does one accumulate karma in order to purify it, and who accumulates karma. We accumulate karma through body, speech, and mind, but it's mainly the mind. So karma is mainly accumulated through the mind. And so what actually is accumulated? You're accumulating the cognitive obscurations of not seeing the true nature of the mind. When you don't see the true nature of the mind, you begin to see self and others as separate. And from that comes attachment to self and aversion to others. So this is how karma first begins. So you see duality, then you act on that basis. And this is then how karma begins to form. And then gradually from that dualistic perception, the various afflictions of attachment and hatred develop. And you accumulate more karma, more action with these 6 afflictions. So it's mainly the body and the speech that act out, and so the body and the speech are just like the servant, and the mind is the master that directs body and speech. And so therefore what really needs to be cleared when we clear karma, is clearing the karma from within the mind, the mental karma. In the Triskanda Sutra, the Three-Heap Sutra, it speaks about bringing into mind one's past non-virtue, one's present non-virtue, and one's future non-virtuous actions. So it says that we need to purify the non-virtuous actions of the 3 times. And the non-virtuous actions of the 3 times are not anywhere else but in the mind. It's all in the mind. It is said that the virtues accumulated in aeons, for example, the love accumulated in aeons, can be destroyed by a moment of anger. However, also, if love arises, when you develop love, then that does the same thing. It purifies all the negativity accumulated. So that is where confession comes in. That is why it's important to confess. This is how we purify karma from the mind. So what we need to understand is that karma is in the mind and at no other place. And since it is the mind, it is something that we can purify. That's all?
네, 시작부터 탈러들이 룽하게 사바 사키지기와 망고 송거 요나 양 조어들이 생구 산속 셈나만 이들이 샤트크 요래 강인하더니 사키 강가면은 송으래 벨라 까빠 똥도 삭보면 봐야 룸이 찍으면 버터는 세르송 책이되네 오 돈담그 내방 통나 까빠 똥도 좀 하면 뭘 사이즈를 좀 받으리 다른들이 산지 공방 통구요래 산지 가려라게 생구 내려고 그래 생구 내려고 나한테는 다다 드바스를 내 탐지 다진이 되는 나초 다진이 되 자들이 생구 내려고 때려들 다진이 매와 내려고 통을 때 대신 뭐도 된 도마 다들 들을까봐 또 못하면 내서 알아들이 생구 내려고 통을 배용돼 제속돼 제발에 이리들 고접상 족생이 재미지 삼바 재미 이게 재미 레지를 드리양세 레지 왔다 난디리 성들에 난디리 성에 샤게 인피로 샤도래 차공들이 매셔도래 되나지 레디 차그롱래 이 차그롱 되시면 이만 대사고 별사 족생나만 이제 자지 뭐 고접상 족생 삼바 재미다 돈담은 내는 걸 꼽아줘야 돼. 내려줘야 돼. 항상 보여야지.
And so, therefore, we need to dedicate, or like we need to confess. We need to find a method for confession. And in general, there are many practices that have been explained with regard to confession, but what we mainly need to do is a way to put aside, to purify our negative actions or confess them through the mind. In the Ganges Mahamudra, it says, a single instant of luminosity, of light, clears away the darkness accumulated over thousands of aeons. So when that darkness of the mind is cleared away, what you see is the state of Buddha. The Buddha, your own mind, the Buddha. And that is the natural state of your own mind. And that is obscured. And the obscuration mainly is an obscuration that comes from perceiving a self and other, a dualistic perception. And there's this dualistic notion of me and you. When you see the natural state of the mind, you no longer perceive duality. What you see is Buddha nature. And this is how, through seeing it in an instant, thousands of aeons of accumulated obscurations are purified. And so the way to clear it away, all these obscurations, is through bodhicitta. First, through the relative bodhicitta. The relative bodhicitta essentially is a mind of immeasurable love and compassion. All the samsaric karma that we accumulate comes from self-grasping. And therefore, self-grasping must be confessed or laid aside, set aside through altruism. It's opposite. This altruism is like the warmth or like the sun that melts the ice of self-grasping. So the two kinds of bodhicitta are very important when it comes to purifying karma. The relative bodhicitta of immeasurable love and compassion, and then the ultimate bodhicitta of meditating, resting in the natural state of the mind. So these are the best methods for purification. That's all. Next question. Can you help with the heart's longing and sadness over being separated from your root teacher? That's all?
Lama kola deva yoni da, songa deva yoni, tola deva yoni, sonori. Lama nguni de zodo kaso machibare. Mata chikpari, song tera tini tini, demba jiri, demde shwami ba te tomu yore, lama song tsa chibore, lama song te takwari yore kare, saji chomji te song yoba tata yore, lama tokde kare, lama tokde shemna, nisme pe yeshidi, o daji ni mewa, shemna ni lukde tongne, o te lama chukor kowar ki nimi mukusam tode, Lama talk the something Namyang the Jeji Yoman, Lama talk the Tili, Jeshi Yoman, Dorji Chang, Lama talk the Deva Yogores, Lama talk the Natili, Lama Gonka Digital, Lama Tansi Sanjay, and Jetta Namya Ladder, Lama sent the Jeshi Yoman, wrong Yoman, Gomjashino, Lama Tantrava Baret, the Damtan Trava Baret, they have caught on the tree. Lama Jeshe me pada rangna Jeshe ke dunge yo mare o rang semna Jeshe me ha ko no lama se rang sem ku derche ni bo tetang te lama te re rang se lama to ku sa de o rang sem derche ni bo ha ko na te nang sa lama derche ni mo rava yo mare te ha ko go re te ha ko re lama rava me ba ha ko se ko de zere tok de Trukka Zumandabore, Turdilla, Munima Imbala, Tatalam Chow, or Cory, or got the trucker race, so the longer, so Archibore, the demanding at home, 动过的，这些东西懂得偷的家就不，那么偷的人生也没有，我们讲的一没法查出来，我的那么的人生上街的。这个做不那么叫哪种去提升我什么？那么让生命习过来。
So there's three ways of placing our faith in or devotion in a guru. We either place our faith in the guru's body, that's one way, or we place our faith, or the body is actually the same as us. So that body that we have faith in is a human body just like ours. Then we may place our faith in the guru's speech. And the guru's speech consists of explaining the two truths, the relative and the ultimate truth. And it's in particular speaking, teaching the unfailing law of karma. And that's actually most important, more important than the body. And the speech is actually always present. For example, the Buddha Shakyamuni's speech is still available to us now. So having devotion in the guru's speech is more important than in the guru's body. But more than the speech even is more important than the speech even is the guru's mind. So the greatest devotion should be in the guru's mind. So what's the guru's mind? The guru's mind is non-dual, primordial wisdom. And so if you see, when you meditate and you see that your mind and the guru's mind are actually not separate, the mind is actually non-dual, what you see is that you're actually not separate from the guru, because you see there is no self and other, so you're not separate from the guru. And so what you see is the nature of your mind. It is said that the perfect devotion is the non-dual devotion in the guru, the nature of one's own, the non-dual nature of the mind, to recognize being that one is non-dual from the guru, and recognizing that one is inseparable from the guru. That is the realization of Vajradhara state. Vajradhara state is the state of unchanging wisdom, the state that transcends birth and death. So we need to have faith mainly in the guru's mind, and not just in their body or speech, but the mind. So Chiten Sungen also said that I am a yogin who has realized that the Lama's mind, the Buddha's mind, and my own mind are the same. So the guru, the Lama, is not separate from you. It's not ever separate from you. And so similarly, the Yidam deity is never separate from you. So if you truly understand that, you realize this unchanging state beyond birth and death. So then you're also no longer affected by the suffering of birth and death, because you recognize that you transcend that, your nature transcends that. So when you see the nature of your mind, you see Buddha nature, and your own Buddha nature is the actual guru. So therefore there is this quote that says, I prostrate to the guru, which is my inseparable from my own true nature, the nature of my own mind. So understanding that, you know that you're actually never separate from the guru, since the guru is your own mind. And so this is the main thing that you need to understand, that there is no separation. So the outer body of the guru is a compounded phenomenon. We say that the outer body is the nirmana kaya. And literally nirmana kaya means the emanation form emanation body, emanation kaya. And so emanation actually has a kind of an implication of illusory, something that's not real. It just appears momentarily, but it's not real. So it's kind of fake in a way. And so that is actually what we call a tulku or nirmana kaya. So that's the guru's form. It's a tulku, it's nirmana kaya. Then the guru's speech is the Sambhogakaya, and the Sambhogakaya is more precious than the form, because the Sambhogakaya, the speech, shows you the true truth. And then even more precious than that is the Dharmakaya, that is the guru's mind. So when you meditate, you realize that your mind is actually the guru, is the guru and the Buddha. So as that quote by Jigden Sumgön goes, I am a yogin who has realized the Lama's mind, the Buddha's mind, and my own mind as one. And so this is what we need to recognize. Lasse?
The Lama Gordy Tata. Malari Namsa Samak Maboshi, the Malari Bakushika, Malari Simnan, Yuri, Malari Koshia, your marriage, and I do 100 tablet, Choso Sola Gona, Raga Sancho Sebona, Sancho Semte, Mari, Yokoso Yari, the Titan Gonka, Lama Chuvala, Sir Kangman, the kitchen Yuri, Sir Kangman Sundashina, the take archery, Lama Chupa, the Sekanga, the young thing of the Nojin, Sekanga, or check it in. So I was no just a lawyer, Tamjeti, Yabu, Quarangin, check didn't see the wind, the state annually. They the machine didn't do just subject kitchen, but Jagore, Sekanga, the Hajasa Chimbore, the day on the little. Ladabna song jagu kodru rasi lamar to bekosana rag se lama kakamare le rotola lama rasi imi chade trite ta sanji ko mang de sang de da ni pa sang sina je de si 시바사오 요발라들이 나파는 잡다고 요래 그래서 거기 얘기는 고소가 그냥 참족으로 써가지고 참족되는 그 돈이 작게 차들 참대로 참말 참대 요래 가리는 좋고 요래 코는 좋고 요래 사과 사지에 살란 좋고 요래 강은 좋고 요래 그 샘급에 참족 시바디야 좋대리 쪽발에 라면 쪽대 참족들이지 그래서 참 보려고 그래 하게 에
So, and then also many, regarding the guru, also we can learn and read about that when we read Milarepa's life story. Many are familiar with the story of Milarepa. There's one story in there that happened just before Milarepa passed away, and his disciples begged him not to pass, and he responded, "Actually, I cannot die. My mind will always continue to pervade the four elements. Whoever supplicates me, whoever cultivates bodhicitta, that is me. I will be right there with them." And also in the Drikung Kagyu tradition, we have a text called the Serkangma, the Golden Temple Prayer. And that's also very significant in order to really understand the meaning of how you are inseparable from the guru. So therefore, try to read this also over and over again, especially the beginning lines are important. And generally, actually, whenever you read a prayer like that, it's really important that you understand the meaning of what you're reading. And if you're not so clear about the meaning, then ask about it. So the Serkangma prayer is also very precious for this understanding. And then also in the Guru Yoga practice of Milarepa, there is a quote by Chamgyung Kongtrul that says that I have not realized that my own mind is actually the guru. So meaning that when you realize, when you see the natural state of your own mind, you see that there is no separation. between you and the guru or the Buddha. And Buddha means Sangye in Tibetan, and Sang means to clear away or purify. And what becomes cleared are the dualistic thoughts of self and other. And then Gye means vast or expansive or pervasive. And then when this duality is cleared, then your mind pervades like space. And then there's this other term that is called like pervading and entering, or kyabchok in Tibetan. So pervading and entering. And that is a way to describe like the nature of Vajradhara. And so pervading, chap means to pervade, all pervasive. And then jok, the second syllable, is to enter, even to enter into cyclic existence without difficulty. So this is the all-pervading guru's mind of Samantabhadra. So?
Rumi Hong Karan Natana Yorete, Lam Sem Sison Tere, Rumi the Hong Canona. Oh, Rumi Hong Saguna, Rouse in the Chikpa in Betty, Hong the Sanjay of the Mochipai, Daji Nidi Meva Chadi, Nidi Meva Kabri, Lamadran Sinsam, Chikpa Chadi Yore. You did Lamaret and then I is a town Nidi Yore. Till Muji, Tere by you and Tina, Jima. There was some Nakata, Lamadran, Sajet to Chupacharo, they Chabakulita, the Chuko, the Sanjay, got Sanjay, the Chagro.
And also I have many different little reminders, like this little picture with the Hung syllable and the fire flame. I'm leaving it there because people may also wonder, like when I'm not here, then like we're sitting on this throne, on the seat here. And so this is a reminder that even after I have passed, then I will still remain right here in this hung syllable inside of the fire flame. So that is my mind, and that mind is your mind. It's the same as your mind. Whenever you think, remember the hung, then your mind becomes one with the Buddhas and the minds of all sentient beings. Then you remember that. Just when you don't remember that, then you again develop a dualistic perception of self and other. And then you think that, so there is the guru, that's me, or that's me and that's him. There's this dualistic perception. But when you remember the Hung, then you recognize that we are actually one. The Lama's mind, the Buddha's mind, my own mind, we are not really separate. And for as long as we still have this dualistic perception, we develop faith and devotion in the Guru by remembering the Guru's qualities. And then later, as we keep holding that in our heart, then as we come to rest in the natural state of the mind, you will actually become one. You will realize that you are actually one. And that is what we call realizing the Dharmakaya. And this is where you attain enlightenment, where you yourself become a Buddha. That's all.
Suppose the Haja Shincha Chen, Mary, Legion Drone, Kang Nancy Drove for so there's some that was Jagore, Cutting Chimore. Oh, I'm a little butchery. The say the Garsona, hold the walk of Lottery, Toto, Matabare, the Hakone, so sent the Wojana, the same to the GP law that was up there, the Dantime Chaderi, the GP law de the Manana, that was a common now and Chayo around Nigga. Needs to be Bajada, they took a chocolate for the longer porter, that was the counter, Saji, Yadam Taji, Chardina. Garson Taposhe, Shakamda, Chado, they carry 다진이지 maybe 심상마 장작들이 셔거나 셔들 장마 장작들이 종진가는 잡다고 요래 생물하고 이 시간하고 이렇고 이 시간하고 이제 그래서 소비분식 한번 보셔는 거리 온가시 간날 송송로리 되라고 좋았지 요래 되라 사촉선들하고 라마 사촉선들 그런 거죠 당복고서 사촉선 삼바체미의 줄라 인식물이 제고리 대지를 대 동삼 사촉선 타요 통거리 동삼 사촉선 길에 어들이 상계에 들이 차야 요래 양다양도 참이 되죠 선거요래 동tam지 찍과를 더터고래 송망고 송된 동도 나도 노도대 좀 터고래 강리 삼세 모요는 나디 메바도도 선거요래 네 나디 메랑 샘도 상계에 선거요래 그리 다다 잠도는 자오롱서 노도도는 자오롱서 쇼설을 잡지 줘래 나디든 자오롱로 그래서 하고는 나디 동사마하고 때기점으로 해야지.
And so, therefore, so we shouldn't become too attached to the physical form of the guru. In the 37 practices, it says, consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. So the body is impermanent. And of course, it's also a precious human body, and we do need to take good care of our precious human body. But also, when the lifespan is reached, when it ends, then there's also nothing that can be done, as everything is impermanent. So therefore, what's most important is to hold on to the guru's mind, and that is the altruistic mind wishing to benefit others. And if you hold on to that, then your own self-grasping will also go away. And when self-grasping goes away, then the pure realms will naturally appear to you. Things just naturally, wherever you go, whatever you do, will become a pure Ram. And so first by dissolving self-grasping and seeing your true nature, the Dharmakaya manifests. You merge with the Dharmakaya. And then from that, all appears as a pure land, as Ambhogakaya arises. And then all your experience becomes a pure land. And that is because your mind is like a mirror. And when a mirror is completely pure, completely clean, then anything that is reflected within it, like the various manifestations, are reflected purely as they are. And what they actually are is the natural radiance of your own mind, or the natural radiance of your 5 wisdoms. And this is how the Pure Lands of the 10 directions all manifest unto you. So when that happens, when the mind becomes so pure, then this is the feeling or the experience that arises with regard to your surroundings. And most important, recognize the Lama as bodhicitta. So first, you must cultivate the relative bodhicitta, which is immeasurable love and compassion for all beings. And then through this relative bodhicitta, you will come closer to the ultimate reality or the ultimate bodhicitta. And when you realize it, you become enlightened. And this is something that you actually can attain, you can accomplish that. And so we hear these teachings over and over again. You hear many different teachings, but all these teachings, they all come down to this one essence, and you need to know how to take the essence of all these teachings. The essence of all these teachings is to cultivate immeasurable love and compassion. When that arises, self-grasping dissolves. If there is no self-grasping, then your own mind is the Buddha. That's in the essence of all the teachings. So in brief, there's ice floating on the ocean water, and the ice is still water by nature, but it's still frozen. So you need to recognize that, meaning you need to recognize, it's important to recognize the faults of self-grasping. Also? Okay, next question. When samsara pulls you away from enjoying or desiring to practice, how can you develop the motivation and passion for discipline on the path? So. Oh, I forgot one. Sorry, Ngachik Chesong. Since it is so important to dedicate merit, what is the best dedication prayer I can use every day? Sorry.
Ngō jīpa tērā tāpō ngō jū gētā tē hākō kōrē, ngō jū gētā tē kārē rē, sūdam tē kārē, sāngē jūrā, shēng kōmā rā, yuñ tīñi chīne, kōshō sōngō yuñ tīñi chīne, tēpā tsēmē pāchē, tē sū nam rē, tē yāng sēm tīñ tam chē tōkō sāng, yā shēng kōmā dōngē chīne rō nī jē chīne, pēlum tāpā rīngā tā tōkwa chī sāchā tam chē, tī dōngē tē yāng tē yāng tō tīñ, tē chīne tērī, tērī dōngē tē rāngā tsēm kō tōla tērī tērī tē mācōng nā, tē tā dōngē tē mēpār sōng nā sā lōh tērī tē yīng jē shē kō yō rē, tē yāng sō nām chē bō tē tē tō kō yō ngā tā tā tē pā chē bō tē jē sōng, tā nāng jē sōng tē sō nām tē sēm jīng tam chē rō jē wā rī shō tē shēng mō wā rā sām yīng jē tē jē nā tā tā ngā ngā rī sēm jū rī yīng jē jē sōng nī yīng jē tē sēm jīng tam chē yīng jē tē tā tō wā rī shō sōng nīngjī kōtī yūla jēla kōku yūmōpa chok tē tā rōgu yōra yūmōpa chok tā sōngla tērī yūmōng chok tē yīshīngāla mēngi rōgu yōre pēne mēngi sōngla māmīla yūmōngpa rē mēngi sōngla yīshīngāla māmīla yūmōngā mēngi yīshīngāla jōn rōgu yōre tē kārī yīrī dērshī yīngpōta yūmōpa ñamdi yōre tērī tē dāda sōng tāna yūmōngāla jōn rōgu yōre mēngi sōngla, jīpīga lōta rīna tērī ishikāna mēngi rōgō rē, pē tētā wā chādhira tērī tērī tērī, ngō mōnā kāchāng kāri chēmbō yīmbē, tērī tātā chūnyok mōnā dēyī, mōnā māngbō yōnā yā chūnyok mōnā nērī, rē yītā tērī sēmchī tē, dōngē tē tā wā tērī, tērī tērī dōngē tē wā māñchōng nā sām, tērī sōngla tēkī tērī, tērī rē tērī tērī wā nē yīng jē tēyā, jēkā rē mē tōtā jēkā rē, tēkā tōngchōng mōna pēnā, lāmbō jibchōrī jibjīnsa dhūmāng nōmī sāpa shō, hācchā chāyā chibō, tērī māgīchī rī pōgō tē chēnā dōngē kācē yō, tīsū rī nācā kārē, sēm rī dōngē, pōgō tē chē sā rī dāpō kācē yō dōngē chē chē rī, tētē nācā mē pā rāmjī chī wā shō sōng, sāngjī kē dōngē tē tā wā chī nē, tā mōna tē, chōchō mōna tē āchē mbō rē, dēnā jī dōngē rē sā lō tāng tē tē rā, dōngē tē tā, pēnā lōngā tē rā dōngē kārē wā mēk chē yōng wā, tē tā mēk kē tōng sō rā pē kārē rī, kārē dēwā kārē, tē rā wā yō, tē rī mōnām jā rā tē rī, dōngē tē tā wā mē rā, dēwā tē tā wā tō pā rī shō sā. Yāng chō pā jā tā sā tē rī, pē tī tsū jē tē pā tē yāng nā, tē nī tē sā mē tō pē pā rī shō sā, pē rī jā pā rī chō pā jā tā tā jē, tē rī chō pā sām jā rī, sām jā kā nyū tē rī yā kō shā sō rā, tā sē pē dēwā gā tē kā sē yō rē. Tāma mī pāsho chatā shumē tam shirā dēvā kāchē yōrē tētā wā. Tēn chukwa jābdē chatā shumē shirā dōngē, sōk chā tsāma rā dōngē kārē, tā hō dōngē tē 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 māchē nā sām, tērī pārtē tē kārē tē tā sāng chok tē dōngē tē kāngē sō, dāndī nē sō ngā rē, dāndī tē kārē tē jīmshī kī lōgō jōb lō, ngē sāmbā sēmī sācē tāp chē sāmhī kē tē kōng nā, tā mē pāsho tā tē, ngō mū tā chē mō, tērī tēwē tē tūjok tēmē sō, tē māngbō rāyā, tē sēngu jūla jēla, tē rāmjī rī tērī, rāmjī rī sārāng dīpā tā, sēmjī rī pīng, rāng pīng mā tā jēla dēvā, chak rī, tē āchā kārchē mō rī, tē trāpē yā bō rī.
So regarding the question about the dedication prayer, so that's also an excellent question, and it's also a very important to dedicate. So when we dedicate, what we first need to understand is, what are we dedicating? So we are dedicating our roots of virtue or our merit. So we need to understand what that is first. What is it that we're giving? What is that merit that we're giving away? So that merit, it begins by remembering the qualities of the higher beings, like the three jewels. So we develop faith and devotion in the three jewels. That is merit. And so recognize that. Then I think that you think about sentient beings, you think about the suffering of sentient beings. For example, the beings experiencing the suffering in war times, as we can see in the world right now. When you think of that and the suffering comes to you, then you will feel, may they be free from this suffering. And that is compassion. You want beings to be free from suffering. And that compassion that you feel, that is a great merit. That is merit. And so first recognize what merit actually is. And so then you dedicate your merit. And so when you dedicate, merit, you recognize, now I have a pure view. Now I have compassion. Now I have love. So may they all have that, whether it is your faith, your pure view, your compassion, that may all beings have that. So you have to recognize the merit, the virtue in having that feeling. And then you give that away. So now you feel compassion for all beings. May all beings have compassion. Because if beings have compassion, then they will purify their own 5 afflictive emotions. And when the afflictive emotions become purified, they will mature or ripen into the 5 wisdoms. As long as the afflictions do not ripen into the wisdoms, they will remain as suffering within the mind of beings. But when they do mature, they transform, they become the 5 wisdoms. And they become the 5 wisdoms because our true nature, the true nature of all beings, is Buddha nature, and therefore is this primordial wisdom that is already within all beings. It's just that they do not see their true nature. This obscuration has not become purified. So when the mind matures and you see that actually you realize your true nature and see there is no self, then the 5 wisdoms will reveal themselves from within. And so 4 dedication prayers now. So now we recognize merit, and then 4 dedication prayer. So there are many different kinds of dedication prayers, but one that is particularly important for us to read is Shanti Deva's dedication prayer from the Bodhicharya Avatara. And that is because this prayer goes through each suffering. So it goes kind of suffering by suffering, and you bring to mind the different kinds of suffering. And as you remember the different kinds of suffering, you pray, may this not happen to anyone, to any sentient being. And so in this way, by going through each of their sufferings, this pure thought for them arises in your mind, just like a kind of a flower blossoming in your mind. So, for example, one line in the dedication prayer of the Bodhicharya Avatara speaks about the suffering a mother experiences during childbirth. So it says that may all the women who give birth not experience the pains and suffering of childbirth. And then it's And so it's not just the suffering of childbirth, it's also the suffering that comes from after that. So after the first is difficult because when the childbirth is difficult, and then once the child is born and the mother worries a lot about her child. So may all beings be free from all these suffering. So give birth without pain, just as Maya Devi did. And then, for example, another line is about may all the blind regain their sights, and so on. May all the deaf begin to hear. So when you read about these sufferings, you think that may all beings be happy and without this kind of suffering. Or another line says that may the weapons turn into flowers, or all the war weapons turn into flowers. And so here you can bring to mind all the suffering beings experience currently in the world, being affected by warfare in the world. And it's not just people actually that are affected by this kind of suffering. Also animals, like for example, it's the cats and the dogs. They're also in the midst of that. And they also experience the suffering of warfare and destruction. So think that may all these beings, all life forms, the humans, the dogs and the cats and all life forms be free and not experience this kind of suffering. And so you keep remembering each suffering, and then you also remember, where does all this suffering come from? It comes from self-grasping. And then what do we need as an antidote? We need altruism. All these beings need altruism. We need to cultivate love and compassion. And so you cultivate compassion for these beings and then pray, may all this suffering end for all beings. And then may they all become purified of their obscurations and so forth. So if you read the Shantidevas dedication prayer, that is a very powerful prayer to purify obscurations, and it is for your own greatest benefit and also for the happiness of others. So this is very important, and that's actually a great question. So. Yeah, that was the other question. When samsara pulls you away from enjoying or desiring to practice, how can you develop the motivation and passion for discipline on the path? So?
그래. 너는 주체 뭐들을 나봐.
Shibari danda shibari. Shibari danda di korba tani di nyamlen khanla nyamlen the chiktengi saba. Chiktengi saba da mambo yu bekabla tani da nyamlen shira maje da sana nyamlen chia. Dini gyun kyonya kola gyun tu tsundu dini semsho chia kola re nyamlen dela.
오지 냠리 개법감니 되니 고감 요메 때라는 거 그냥 뭐지 내려 톡송네 같이 냠리 제도 요나 냠리 제 공매봐 나 이제 뒤사와는데 그 요래 때라 가땅디 뭐라는 거 간에서네 세체 토지 파르나송 가땅에 세 차와래 룽아 예수 차와 가래서는 일 피고 선로 뒤되니 되니 제라 들이 출리 정도고요. 개발은 정도고래. 먹기가 담지를 개발은 전에 pero 소주에 되니 받치 보러 와. 옛날 심지 동해진 달르는 나타지 대담실 삼희지 갑잡 다들 파이샤소로 야사에서 갑잡면 개발은 정도고래. 쌈바게다 먹게 삽다래. 샘마행 봐서 제고래. 라니 소주면 쏘는더니 샘그 딱월 사제가 연대인지 십지를 삼hin제를 너는 십지를 팽고 상 랑 짜라 이렇게 대 핑고 삼는 대신에 드리제 대초지 받는 드리 바로 노성담제 전반을 별 민강강 손을 미용을라서 와서 주바를 전반을 조절해 대답이 랑 내가 가리실 때 저기 말이 또 고통을 알래 사바게다 먹게서라래 송 드리 셈마인 과소리 셈마인 과에는 강리들이 라리 소되면 송과 정치성 저 소득과 되네 저들은데 송을 제자식이 조람 강제 조람 제들랑 세빈내 갑들하시 세빈 차당 모습 나는 마셔봐 삼제 임핑이 나는 데이터봐 대기치 뭐에 들이 잡아게 가는 줄 알고 요래
So when it comes to practice, so whether or not one has an opportunity to practice depends also on one's past karma. And so some people, they want to practice, but they lack the opportunity to practice because they are bound by various obligations and different activities. But then still, what is most important is the motivation to practice. So therefore, if you have a motivation to benefit others, then really whatever you do becomes a practice. As you mentioned yesterday, that quote by Milarepa, aside from practicing merit in whatever you do, there is no other skillful means than that. So you can practice merit in whatever you do, even in your ordinary activities. And that merit is mainly the intention of altruism that wishes to benefit others. And if you have that, then whatever you do, it will become a dharma practice, or it will become virtues. For example, if you go to the hospital and you pay your hospital bill, then naturally you don't see it as a burden, but you see it as an offering that actually benefits the hospital, for example. Then it becomes a practice of generosity. So it is said that it's not about the outer action which determines whether something is virtuous or non-virtuous, but what really determines virtue or non-virtue is the inner motivation. And so if the inner motivation is virtuous and you have a wish to benefit others, then whatever you do becomes an accumulation of merit. So that's a skillful way of making everything you do become an accumulation of merit. So.
달래가 가리 제고나들이 라가 선우지티 사지 강대 요리스 내가 가리 질러들 생기는 빈바데 레바드버리 별은 초코를 내가 제잖아 내가 된 레베되게 이제 탐질 핑요리 추가서 말해 로도 꼬바를 싶어 담아데 드니 잡동 총코트 집에 담아데 가당시 받아들이 칼라살랑 숨만 참만 보고 싸요리 샤제진나 대습져서 소소참만 피용들이 코소를 뜨거운 그 동해들이 될랑에티 사주라서 뭐 컨다 핀바들이네 드리티 바들이 라투로요 오 코도 페이그 어디 도와주실래 진짜 뭐하지 뭐람자 대저 잡동 총코트 집에 담아 로도 꼬바를 집에 담아 물라면 살때 집에 담아서 가시기 공동으로들이 파만이고 5만 배, 6만 배, 6만 배, 지네들이 천이태들 람사 5만 배, 지네들 람, 지네들 남하고 지네들이 말하면 설세배 담아 디바테로 자나로래 세르들이 말할 때 손말해지.
Then there was another instruction by Milarepa, and he said that when I go around, I see it, when going around, see everything as a circumambulation. So this is the instruction of making everything a circumambulation. So the way you can practice it is that whatever you do, you see it all as filled with wherever you go. It is all filled with Buddhas, and it is like filled with an intention of benefiting others. So in whatever you do, for example, if you work like in a factory or so, whatever you do, you think that may this become beneficial toward others. Then wherever you go, whatever you do becomes virtuous or becomes a circumambulation. And then Milarepa said, there's the instruction for eating to become a feast offering, a Dzog offering. As we mentioned yesterday, one's body is pervaded by millions of microorganisms. And so when you're eating, you can also remember their hunger and thirst and how you want to benefit them and nourish them as you're eating. So as you're eating, also dedicate and pray for them that they may be nourished from your food. And then Milarepa said, then there is the instruction of recognizing the dream state as luminosity. So, for example, before you go to sleep, if you must sleep, and so before you go to sleep, remember Chinrizik and recite a few Om Mani Padme Hum mantras, and fall asleep with that. And then immediately upon awakening, again, remember Chinrizik and the Mani mantra. And this is also a way to train in the luminosity of the sleep state, of the dream state. So this is a teaching by Milarepa. That's all. And then the next, if having a lot of money means in your prior life you were generous, how to think of wealthy people who are greedy and mean. So.
Oh yeah. The Gita the double gravity Jim Le somebody Tam Nina do but Tosotan change job you give your Nampo money sorry. Dark got to get got said the Chibori Yapochago, young man like it, I was a chagoda, iron about the thing is ginger, that get at them. Trichiasma, Jivatan is the Lobu Tokyo, young lady was all the quarter mom, Yawa Yatali, just the change or there's some Coloma Dali, get up and don't want you know your age. They come to some city already, so long time already. Or simply come to Pingo, somebody to the social, simply come to Pingo, somebody. This is some youngly. Not or not take Pingo, not so not talk something go married.
And so when we practice any kind of virtue, so Milarepa had said that now when you practice any virtue, then he said that to one of his rich benefactors, you should not think that I'm doing this in order to gain some recognition or in order to become famous and so forth, in order to get anything out of it at all. Because if you practice a virtue, even if you practice virtue, but if you do it with an intention of I want this or that out of it, from having practiced virtue, then of course still in the next life, in the future, there will be some good result from the virtue itself. But at the same time, you're also accumulating much negative karma, and that will then ripen as rebirth in the hell, the hungry spirits, or animal realms. So it's when it comes to practicing virtue, again, it's mainly about a pure motivation. So we need to make sure the motivation is pure. And a pure motivation is a motivation of pure love and compassion. for example, to think that may all sentient beings benefit. That is a pure motivation. And that's the motivation to have in practicing any virtue. Otherwise, you still have some virtue that will ripen, but don't think that I'm doing this great thing in order for me to gain merit, in order for me to gain anything. So. Could you please speak about your own process of developing forgiveness, love, and compassion for the Chinese government and people who invaded your homeland, killed innocent monks, and destroyed Dharma teachings? How is this karma? So,
the legendary sorry, legendary Nekap Tatang Sogi, Lay Karitiva, the Miyum Guyore, that's a Lamatawa in a Kare and Koto Lema was Sayality, Jin Ramana, the Miyum Guyore, Tichin, Leggy me or Esi. Maybe this is Papa Takaka, that they were Charlie Matos, Rangel Chichi, Jin Rectarete, take it, the party. Kangi Java Tamji, that the body part take or is Dolna Dongin Tadak, the body part taro your age, or Doji Potter Moisone, Chilamaga, Dogagadi, Doglan Langin, Chilin Montong and Person, Dongin Tamchi, not a drug, don't Teddy, Dongin Tamchi, Pachado, your age, Dongin Talingazoba, they only three directors. Oh,
yeah, so this question is really about karma, and so if you just understand karma, it's actually all you need to know. So now we observe suffering, some temporary suffering in this life. But we need to recognize that this is all karma ripening from something that was created before in previous lives. So whatever we did, it now ripens, and that also is true for even lamas and monks and so forth. They also have that karma, and when the right conditions come together, and this karma ripens. But the agents who actually created this karma is those people experiencing the results. So here for this, it's really enough to just trust in the workings of karma and understand that it is all karma. And it is also karma purifying itself. So through the suffering, negativities, negative karma becomes purified. And in brief, all suffering essentially at some point needs to become purified. Dzogchen Pato Rinpoche had said that I do not wish for happiness. I prefer suffering, because when I'm happy, then the afflictions only increase. But when I suffer, that exhausts my negative karma. And so what it means is when you experience suffering, then all the negative karma are related to illness and evil spirits and so forth, all of that becomes purified. And so what you essentially need in these circumstances is the kind of patience that is called the patience of accepting suffering. So then if I've only heard Om Mani Padme Hum chanted, but you added Shri at the end. What is the meaning of Shri? What is the correct way to chant the mantra? And what should be visualized? What is the benefit of chanting this mantra? Is it more beneficial to have an empowerment for chanting this mantra? And so?
Oh, yeah. The Saudi Turkey kept the Chin Naga, the Chin of Pagani, the Manukologong, they were Shegom, so yet the Sheri, she was so. 3D, Tondam Demon, Tonate, Raja, Zero Sunguri, then one Tom the Tini, Money, the King of one Tom the Raja, the Demon Java, the little Soso Rangati, Nero Tom Tonga, Chepari and Sari, the Tali, Man, the Trok, the Drawer, Party Trok, Zimbori, Yumoto, Yibori, Sierra Shetty, Soyek, Tanso, the Tondam Dipingo, Embete, Yaptin Cavallo, marriage, the Chicken Samari, the 3D, Manus work out of money, the Gari, Dona, last time she tagayot, just of the Sanjay Tamse Tagayos, did a quarter of Gori, Jetty Hansi, last time she tagayos, and Tessanately, the watch by the theatre of Chade, they go to Kitchiburi, manage away on Mare.
Well, so regarding the 3 syllables, so in the context, in the tantric context of the Guhyasa Maja, Great Compassionate One, it is mentioned that the Mani mantra, the 6-syllable Mani mantra, needs a Shri added to it, and the Shri represents the life force syllable of wisdom. And essentially, it is said that if you have seen the ultimate truth, then you can add the Shri syllable to the Mani mantra. So it really represents this seeing of the ultimate truth. And also, it is said if you have received the Great Compassionate One Chenrezig empowerment, then you can also add the Shri syllable. And it is said that otherwise, without the empowerment, then you would not add the Shri syllable. So what it likely really means, this Shri syllable, is when you see the nature of the mind, you add the Shri syllable, and otherwise you don't add the Shri syllable. And just generally speaking, the 6-syllable mantra of Chenrezig is represents kind of they are the seed essences, the seed syllables of the 6 paramitas, and also the antidote to the 6 afflictive emotions. And so the Shri can be seen as the ultimate seed syllable of the ultimate truth. But it's not just this particular mantra. So in essence, so with or without the Shri, essentially it's all the same. There's no contradiction whether you add the Shri or not. And the reason why there's no contradiction is because all beings in the end have Buddha nature. And also, it doesn't matter which mantra you recite. Any mantra that you recite encompasses all mantras. Within one mantra, any given mantra, all the Buddhas of the outer, inner, and secret, the Buddhas of the 3 times are complete, and all the deities are complete within any given mantra. So a mantra generally is called the essence. So it's called the essence mantra. It represents the essence of all the Buddhas and all the deities. So it's not just the Mani mantra. Also?
다다 사적 셈조를 뭐지 좀 강의되나 그런 잠번은 그 답을 줄록 뒤면로 이해는 림보체의 가래를 제와래 제와가 나오니 제와 친구들이甚至 탐지를 피고 삼지 제와들 들이 사적 셈에 대기 첨보요래 놀러 제와를 맞으고 주제 요 말에 들이 대답을 토론데 들이 좀 많은 사적서 온 거에 다시 될래.
So thank you, Amdashi Delek, my Dharma friends. And in the end, we always recite the prayer for precious bodhicitta to arise. And so bodhicitta is essentially great love for all beings, wanting to benefit all beings. And that is important, not just in the Dharma, but anywhere, for anyone in the world. I mean, they all need love. Love is important for anyone. And so therefore, that is the essence of the Mani mantra. The essence of it is love. And that is important for all beings. So now at the end, we're going to recite the Mani mantra, the Shidelek. And also thank you to anyone following on the live stream, and also, of course, everyone who is gathered here today in person. Dashidelek.
Long life, Rinpoche. Thank you. And this concludes the teaching portion for Garchen Rinpoche for this retreat. And on behalf of the Garchen Institute and everyone here, we make this group offering with profound thanks in our hearts for your infinite wisdom and compassion in bestowing your blessings upon us. Thank you so much. And so next we will be all gathering outside with Garchen Rinpoche for a group photo, mask-free, outside. And so Rinpoche will leave now, and we just have a couple of announcements. Khenpo Tenzin will be bestowing the refuge vows for anyone who would like to take them at 2:15 in the temple today. And then we'll be showing the birthday film that we recently celebrated Garchen Rinpoche's birthday in April. And so we'll be showing that 10-minute film at 2 o'clock before the refuge vows. And then people are welcome to stay and to witness the ceremony if you're not participating in it. And okay, and so now we'll just let Rinpoche get situated outside for the photo.
Tare tu re mama,
to